Hey guys, it's time for another What's for Dinner video. In this one, I'm sharing 3 easy and budget-friendly meal ideas with you guys. We really enjoyed all 3 of these. I made some homemade calzones, some taco pizza, and then some pizza casserole. A little bit of a theme going on there, but I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, make sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you're not already, but let's get on into it. First up, we have these easy taco pizzas, not very many ingredients and easy to make. We've got the ground beef, of course, some taco seasoning. I've got some little cherry tomatoes there, some shredded lettuce, fiesta blend cheese, and then the kind of pizza crust that I'm using is this flat out thin pizza crust, and it turned out really good. You do have to kind of pre-bake it. I did that on 375 for 3 minutes, then flipped it and did it for 3 more, and then just start cooking everything else like the ground beef. So I started out cooking the ground beef, then mixed the taco seasoning in with it and diced up my tomatoes. After I started making this, I decided to also add in some refried beans on the bottom just to give it kind of a base. So I took my can of refried beans and spread it out onto both of the pizza crust. We only did 2 for our family, but it could have made more. Just probably needed a little bit more ground beef if you did that maybe. But I did a layer of the refried beans all the way across, then put my taco meat on there, and then layered everything else. You can do any kind of toppings you want. We did some of those cherry tomatoes on 1.5 of them because I left some for the kids without it, and I'm not crazy about tomatoes either like that. So just did the ground beef, then some tomatoes and cheese on top, and stuck it in the oven. And since you do kind of bake that crust before putting all your toppings on, once all the toppings are on, I just cooked it on 375 for about 5 minutes. If you want it a little more crispy, it turned out pretty good. It was a little bit soft and crispy, like in between. But if you want it more crispy, just pre-bake it for a little bit longer, I'd say. But these turned out really good. And then once they were out of the oven, I topped them with some shredded lettuce and then a little bit of some sour cream that I had in this little squirt. I don't even know what this thing is called. It's supposed to be like a chocolate drizzler, I think, from Pampered Chef, but I used the free sour cream and it turned out really good. One of these I feel like was pretty low calorie. That wasn't exactly the goal, but that's how it turned out. So if that's something that you strive for, then this would be a good meal for that, because each one of those crusts, like the whole thing, was just 130 calories, but it was super yummy too. So that's a double win right there. Okay, on to the next recipe. We're making some calzones, and I made my own dough for that too. First time making this 2-ingredient dough that I've seen going around. Y'all, if you haven't tried that, it turns out so good, and it's the easiest bread dough I've ever made. It's equal parts self-rising flour and Greek yogurt. I think I did get the wrong kind of Greek yogurt though, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But for our calzones, we made them Italian cheese ones. I used some marinara sauce, Italian sausage, and some mozzarella cheese on them. So good. And then to go on top of the calzone, I made a little mixture with some butter, Italian seasoning, garlic powder, and Parmesan cheese. So what I mean about the Greek yogurt, how I thought I got the wrong kind, is from the recipe I was following, at least, it said to get that brand, and I did, but I think it was 0% milk fat. I don't know what difference it makes because I felt like it still worked out pretty well, but I ended up getting 5%. So all you need to do is do equal parts of it. If you're making just 1 calzone, it would have been half a cup of each, but since I was making 2, I did a cup of each of them, then mixed them together really well until I formed a dough. Then flour your surface pretty well. I probably did mine a little too well, but it worked out because I did need to work in some more flour with mine. It was just a little bit too sticky. So you just want to work with it until you get it to the right texture for your dough. Since I was making a double batch of this, I went ahead and flattened it out a little bit evenly and then cut it in half into 2 separate little balls of it, and then you want to roll it out until it's about 6 inches around, all the way around, or like in lengthwise anyway. And conveniently, this little cutting board I had measurements on it, so it was easy to figure out how much 6 inches was. But then you just transfer it over to your pan. I made sure to spray it pretty well, and then I worked on my topping after that. So for the topping, I just took a few tablespoons of butter, stuck it in the microwave to melt it, and then added my desired amount of seasonings. I used Italian seasoning, garlic powder, and then some Parmesan cheese. And you do see me watching somebody else's What's for Dinner video here. I think it was the Unmodern Millennial. I do that occasionally while I'm cooking. It gives me some inspiration, and I feel like I'm hanging out with them sometimes. So if you're not subscribed to her, I'll leave her down in the comments down below. But I also went ahead and cooked up my Italian sausage, drained it. And then for the calzones, you want to put your sauce on half of it because you're going to be folding it over. I tend to struggle with not putting things around the edge because you do want to be able to pinch these shut. So I did have a little bit of sauce leakage, but it was totally fine. Put your desired amount of toppings in here. Calzones are so awesome because they're so versatile and you can make them your own. We did the Italian sausage and then some mozzarella cheese. I kind of pulled them over to close them and shut around the edges with a fork. After I put all of that yummy goodness on top of it, I stuck it in the oven on 375 for 22 minutes and then 2 additional minutes at the end on 500. I raised the temperature of the oven so that it could get that nice color that you like. Here it is right before I put the 2 minutes on, and then right after it, it comes out looking like this, all yummy and a little bit more crispy on the top, you know, to get that dough, that nice color. And the flavor of this was so good and it was so filling. I didn't even finish a whole one, which our cat also had kittens that night, so I was a little distracted. But besides the point, it was very, very filling. I didn't feel the need to have anything else with it. Calzones are just filling like that, and I will definitely be trying out more things with that 2-ingredient dough. If you've never tried that, you totally should. It's so easy to work with. This next recipe is one of Travis's absolute favorite recipes. He gets excited every time I make it. We call it pizza casserole. I don't know. Maybe you would call it something different, ziti possibly, but we've always just called it pizza casserole. And I used the leftover Italian sausage from the night before since the calzones didn't use much of it. To save that before putting it in the fridge in the Ziploc, I stuck it on a paper towel on top of a plate just to let all that grease soak into it. And then I had some marinara sauce, rotini noodles, some mozzarella cheese, and then some pepperonis that needed to be used up. These were hot and spicy because I didn't even mean to buy those when I bought them. So it was about to expire and we just needed to use them on something. So this is kind of like a leftovers made over kind of meal as well. So that's awesome. First thing I did was cook up my noodles, and then that's pretty much all I had to do besides like just, you know, mixing everything together. So I went ahead and added the sauce, a whole jar of that marinara sauce, and the Italian sausage. This makes a half size in a casserole pan for us. Mix it all together, and then you want to layer it. I do like to use the rest of the little sauce that's left in the jar and spread it out across the bottom of my pan first, then make it into 2 layers. So we did the noodles, sauce, and meat mixture, then topped it with the mozzarella cheese, and I only did half of the pepperonis on here, like only put them on half because I personally didn't want hot and spicy pepperonis, and I knew the kids wouldn't either, so Travis pretty much got that whole side. But then you just want to make a second layer, stick it in the oven on 350 for about 25 minutes, just until it's looking nice and bubbly on top. After it was done, I served it with some garlic toast, which I made in the air fryer with some butter and garlic salt sprinkled on top of it. Just stick it in the air fryer for a few minutes, and it turns out so yummy every time. But I do want to say this one is one of our favorites, especially Travis. He absolutely loves this every time we make it. But next week, we are going to be doing a whole video with our family favorites, like the ones that just came to our mind first. So I'm super excited to share that. And if you don't want to miss it, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified when I upload that. But thank you guys so much for being here and watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.